Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about episode 2 of Peacemaker. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I'm curious by the way the show is edited and structured. It almost feels like it is a movie just edited down into episode lengths. Kind of almost like how some of the Disney Plus Marvel stuff kind of has a feel like that, especially just like how it just immediately picks up like that. I don't know, it's just like I feel like you don't see too many TV shows do that, but once again, this is like almost like it's on HBO Max, so it's like the equivalency of like HBO, so I'm sure HBO does a lot of its shows like that, but it's not, when you compare it to like most televised stuff, it's not something I'm 100% used to. So when I see that, it just kind of always catches me off guard, but it's immediately picking up with him calling Harcourt as he's like explaining like what happened. He's like, one of those butterflies, I had sex with her, then she tried to kill me, she's a metahuman freak. I'm like, okay, because I was curious like what they were going to label her as. I mean, once again, just because you're a metahuman doesn't mean anything, because a lot of metahumans were born from experiments, whether it be Cyborg, whether it be Barry, whether it be once again on the Suicide Squad itself, Polka Dot Man. So I'm curious if there's going to be any correlation there. And obviously it's like, damn it, what's going on? All right, I'll get there as fast as I can. So she hits up Adebayo, who's like in a room like down the hall like from her, which she's staying there with her wife. And it's like, cool, come on. Which I love on the drive there. It's like, right, she makes this whole conversation about like, because it's like, right, Harcourt's like, you shouldn't be too attached to anyone. Like with the nature of this job, that person that's with you could get hurt. And it's like, and I forgot how the conversation shifted to Adebayo like bringing up her dog, and it's like, oh, like wearing a sweater and stuff like that, which later on turns into a conversation. Oh, where is he? He's like, where's he? Oh, he's back at home. Not your damn dog. I'm talking about Peacemaker. But then also it turns into conversation of like, she's like, I'm playing with my dog, and she seems so happy to be. It's like, no, your dog isn't happy about dressing up. It humiliates itself because it loves you. And I'm like, how are we getting on this whole conversation? And I love that Peacemaker couldn't find the easy way out because he actually had to go back upstairs to get his stuff, which included squeezing back into his costume, plus stealing her music. Not only did you kill her, to be fair, it was in self-defense, but now you're deciding, like, rather than getting out of there immediately, oh, let me jack all this cool music. It's like, ooh, I'm gonna make me some cookies tonight with these, like, different shapes. I'm like, man, that's just so weird. He's putting it all in, like, a sheet or whatever so he can, like, take it with him. But sadly, the cops are on the scene, and I love that one cop's investigating. He's like, "Oh, what is this pizza?" And she's like, "Put that down, officer." It's like, "What is?" And like the detective Sophie, she's like, "I believe that's a human face," and it's just kind of like, to be fair, I can see why that cop thought so. It looked like some pizza, looked like some cheese pizza. It makes you go, "I'm never gonna have cheese pizza again." When you look at that, just like once you've seen it, you kind of can't unsee it. So that was pretty brutal. But also, he had to do the stupid thing of look out, outside, and lo and behold, they happen to look up and they see him. And like, I love that, like, a good chunk of like the beginning of this episode. I'm like, what, maybe the first like 15 minutes or so is literally just him escaping that building. You would think like, oh, be done in a couple minutes. It's like, no, he like fumbles his way through it because the cops are all on top of him. Even Harcourt's like, what, did you not believe me when I said the cops were outside? So he's going to have to go through the back. He's going up the stairs. The cops are going up the elevators. Plus, comic book wise, the actor who plays Sophie's partner, Larry, obviously Riverdale, where he played Betty's dad / the Black Mask. I'm like, oh, once again, all these people with comic book related properties. That's interesting. But nevertheless, I love that he breaks into like Evan and Amber's place, and like he's holding Evan hostage. He's like, yeah, can you pick those up for me? Because he dropped he's like, yeah, sure. And then Amber comes up like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, right, the guy's got me at knife point. It's like, wait, and you're helping him? And so it turns into a whole them bickering and their marital issues. And then she sees that he's into something. She's like, oh, Cinderella. And he's like, yeah. And they start talking about it. She's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And I love Evan's like, really, Amber? And it's like, poor Evan. The entire episode, Evan's just getting cucked. Oh, you poor bastard. And I was like, right, I'm going to have to tie you up. He's like, yeah, but I'm not going to do well with that because I'm going to get a little claustrophobic. And, Peacemaker's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry. And so they deal with the whole thing. But it's kind of like, she's kind of talking to him and everything. And she's like, he's like, oh, is that too tight? She's like, no, that's good. And he's like, Evan's like, really, Amber? I'm right here. She's like, what? It's like, He's like, I've never once heard you talk about Cinderella. She's like, I've talked about Cinderella like multiple times because it's like, what, you think you and him have something in common? It's like, yeah, we do. And it's just like, oh, what are you trying to do? Fuck him right now in front of me? She's like, well, I am tied up right now, so anything can happen. And she looks at him, it's like, anything could fucking happen. And she looks at Peacemaker, and he's almost like, what? Because I thought he was going to feel kind of bad, like, I can't, like, bang you in front of your husband. I thought he was going to be a douchebag enough that he would actually try, but it's like, well, you are running from the cops. You don't have enough time for that. But once again, bumbles his way through it as he's got, like, as he's like leaping from one balcony to the next. And it's not even just leaping. It's not even jumping. It's more like falling and flailing as he's hitting it and just like, ooh, like, Adebayo and, Harcourt are looking at him just like fumble his way down. You're like, Jesus, you know, it's like no grace, no style. It's just like, man. Once again, it's just like the Suicide Squad made you seem like a dork, but you were kind of cool. But it's like you're only cool in combat situations. You're just like running for your life right here. So luckily, Harcourt showed up and she like tranked all the cops who were in the back. And I love that Adebayo was like, no, I can help and stuff like that. I'm good with weapons and stuff like that. I could be the great getaway driver. That's good too. I got you. You know, so luckily they got away. I also love he was like, oh, could you look for Eagly? It's like, all you got to do is get a paper bag and like crinkle it. He's going to think there's chips. It's like, you're feeding your eagle chips. It's like, well, what else do you want me to do? So cops are unloading on them. Luckily they were able to get away. Eagly got inside of the car too. And it's like, he better not poop in here. It's like, you can't house train an eagle. Like, what are you talking about? And like, Adebayo, she's like super like, hyped about it. She's like, yeah, just like what they did, gunshot fires and all that. And I love that like Myrn and John are working together. It's like John's like, right, I could switch the fingerprint and put the car's registration to someone else's name. And it's like, lo and behold, whose registration and name did he put it in? He put it in Peacemaker's dad's name. And I'm like, why would you do that? Because even Myrn's like, what? Are you stupid? He's like, I didn't know if you were going into the 1 and 2. He's like, do I have to text you every time I'm taking a shit? He's like, it help? I'm like, but that's like, John, he's like, and I'm getting the feeling like you're mad at me right now. He's like, you weren't around, so I just did what I had to do. I did some pretty big wizardry, and now I feel like you're mad at me. Come on, John. You gotta admit that was a stupid, why? Because even Myrn's like, we're trying to get this guy on our side, and you're framing his father? Yes, he does not have the best relationship with his dad, but you sticking it to his dad is just going to make him go like, wait, what? I don't know. He could have the reaction of like, oh man, my old man deserves it. But it's like, he wants to impress his old man too much, so he'd never want his old man to fall for like crimes he committed, so. But I'm like, I don't know what was crossing John's mind to think that was a good idea. Like, I guess it makes sense because it's like, right, you can just like, them being family makes it easier. Like, it makes your wizardry a little easier rather than just getting some random person. But I'm like, it's not, I mean, I get it. It's still impressive, but it feels like it's less impressive because it is someone who is family. That's his dad. So it makes it almost seem like shifting all of that over to his dad seems like almost easier than like a random person. So it's not as impressive in my mind. I love the cops roll up to his place and immediately like not wanting to talk to Sophie because she's Asian. You're like, Jesus, man, like hold nothing back. And he calls her chopsticks and she's like, well, what did you say? Fork? I'll go ahead and finish that, which I love that Larry's like, fork? Why not spoon? She's like, I know, but like everyone enjoys a spoon. He's like, yeah, but a spoon, like you could have said like, right, because babies eat with spoons. You could have like demeaned him a little bit with that. She's like, yeah, I know in this moment, but it's too like she said fork. I love it. It's just like, even I was about to say spoon. Would spoon really have it? But then you go into the ins and outs. It's like him out of anyone because he's like, oh, he demoralizes his son by being like, oh, my son's not a man. So by babying him by being like, oh, you spoon. It's like, but also it doesn't have the racist connotations that him calling you chopstick does. But it's like, yeah, him saying chopsticks has a racist connotation to it. Like not a subtle. It's like a full blown out there jazz hands. Racist, connotation to it. So I'm like, I don't know if you could jab him back by even like the spoon, I guess, is the closest thing, but I don't know if anyone would immediately jump to the connotation of, yeah, because babies use spoon, but it's like, yeah, everyone also uses spoons. So it's like, I don't know if that would have worked. I don't know if there was a clean, good comeback that, would have like stung as much, so. But that was just crazy. But regardless, an interesting thing about that scene was Sophie brought up the fact is that him having his caped situation, which I love that initially she was like, God, I hope this ain't a cape thing. It's like, you have to deal with that enough in this universe, I'm sure, where you're just like, please don't let this be some superhero crap. Like, if this is some caped stuff, probably more paperwork, just more, all the destruction. It's like, once again, it's something we don't really dive into. There was, once again, that short-lived show. I never watched it, but I always loved the concept of it, is the whole, a company that, helps people, that ordinary citizens deal with, the ramifications of, there's, superheroes and supervillains battling across. The show was called Powerless. It was, from a couple years back. If I remember correctly, I think that specifically is set in the DC universe. That story, I think, is specifically set in the DCU. So it's right, it's just, I'm sure, it's just way more complications than you want to kind of be dealing with, so. But the way she made it sound it does sound like he had his suit, he suited up, so the whole Peacemaker moniker, it does seem like it is his, because it's your son, Chris. It's yeah, that car's not mine, that's my son, Chris. Your son, aka Peacemaker. So I'm curious, what was his dad's, moniker, because, the helmets and stuff, might have been his back in the day, and once again, maybe he passed it all on to his son, and his son picked up the moniker of Peacemaker and being what he was. Because I don't know if I didn't talk about this angle to it last episode, but despite all his dad's racism, even he's no, my whole thing is I don't really go about things that way, Dad, which he's not too receptive to that whole situation. But now that a butterfly is dead, which we still don't know what a butterfly is, because they're not filling Peacemaker in. It's just that Murn's this is a very important mission, the country and the world's kind of at stake type of thing. And I'm yeah, but it is kind of interesting that despite that, you would think that you would have filled him in, considering, but it's right, we're not friends, we're people stuck together. You're the gun. We just point in a direction and have the trigger pulled. I think that's what they want Peacemaker to be viewed as. And it's we don't have to, you just point and shoot where we want you to. We don't need any more information beyond that, because they think, well, he is just a killer. Despite his own justifications, it's no, you're just a killer and that's all you'll ever be. So why would we get so caught up in the minutia? Why would you? But I do love that, John is trying to stitch him up, but every time he's just talking mad shit to John. And obviously, Harcourt is wondering well, who ratted us out? She doesn't think it's Murn, because he gave them the missions about the butterflies. If he wouldn't have given this mission to them in the first place if he was a part of it. Obviously, she's I try to save Muscles over here, so there's no way it was me. And he almost got killed, so there's no way it's him. So the only person left is Adebayo, and it's she's oh, I got this certificate when I was 14 with weapons, and it's no, anyone could get that at 4. It's how did you get here? Because once again, she's defending Waller by being no, it's not her. But even Murn was no, it can't be Waller. But it's we've seen what she would do, sacrifice an entire squad. Hell, she even killed, Flag just to, serve the purpose of her mission. So she's not above, sacrificing people if necessary. Who's to say that we aren't the decoy team, just like Boomerang and them were. But I love that he went on this whole diatribe about how he thinks it's oh, Elmo, he's what was his last name? It's Economic or something like that, Economy. And he was why you guys have such weird names? And he was just kind of going on about maybe he's the one that spilled the beans. Maybe he, got a little fentanyl, met up with a prostitute and was oh, I'm working with the famous Peacemaker and we're here to kill a target or something like that. And my beard is real. And he was are you fucking stupid? And Murn's it sounds plausible. John's almost that sounds plausible to you? It's that's so messed up. He's I'd rather be dealing with Harley Quinn and Weasel right now. Well, understandably, Harley Quinn would be a lot more fun, but there's a whole other level of crazy you'd have to deal with Weasel. Well, you're not a child, so maybe he wouldn't kill you like he killed those 27 children. Plus, we still don't know if they know that Weasel's still alive. They can track him and stuff like that. Because I even love that conversation early on. It's like, wait, like, can you watch me when I'm jerking off? It's like, it's a chip in your head. It doesn't work like this. It's like, I don't know. If you ever want to watch me jerk off, like, all you have to do is ask. He's like, I don't know what technology is like this day, like what you guys would be capable of. So, I mean, he's also like, I'd rather spend time, but circling back. And then John drops Batmite. I was like, wait, who? And even he was like, who? It's like Batman. He's like a fifth dimensional, like an interdimensional being that's obsessed with Batman. I was like, that's that little sucker's name? I've seen him before, but I never knew his name was Batmite. I was like, oh, like, is he a fifth dimensional imp? Is he like Mixopedalic and Nixley? Both fifth dimensional imps. I don't, because, like, Mixopedalic is obsessed with Superman, so I was wondering if that's supposed to be the same ilk of that. Like, but I do distinctly remember, like, I've seen, like you've seen him in animations and stuff like that, Batmite. And I'm like, and I love that, like, Peacemaker's like, wait, he's real? And it's like, yeah. So, still no answer on that front, but it's also like, right, if she was going to kill him, why'd she have sex with him in the first place? But then Peacemaker remembers, oh, she was reading the file. It's like, wait, you left the file that shows that the government hired you to kill a U.S. senator or something like that? He was like, well, yeah, I thought it would be irresponsible to leave it in my car or something unattended. What'd you want me to do? Take it all the way back home? Yes, you idiot. It's just kind of like, all right, Adebayo, I need you to handle, oh, wait, there were witnesses? It's like, yeah, I did kind of have to kidnap some people. And so ultimately, she goes handle it. She's like, oh, do you want me to, like, mind me, like, pop? And he's like, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take it. She's like, oh, and she's doing this thing. He's like, what are you doing with Sheree? She's like, I don't want to actually say it. And she's doing the thing. I was like, what? And he's like, no, just say it. She's like, bribery. He's like, yes, go do that, please. So she goes off and I love that she's like, all right, okay, this is a real badge and I got to talk to you. And they're coming out still arguing about it and stuff like that. And it's like, right, I just want to talk to you guys. Yeah, maybe the guy you saw isn't who you think you saw. And it's like, maybe you want an all-expense vacation to Nevada. It's like, are you bribing us? She's like, no. He's like, oh, man, I was kind of hoping you were bribing us. Like, yes, I'm bribing you. And I'm like, yeah. And so when they, I was like, I didn't know what to expect when they were both being like, oh, this is the guy that we saw and kidnapped us and stuff like that. And I was like, I didn't expect it to be, I didn't expect it to be Peacemaker's dad. I was like, that's so good. Once again, getting it super hard to the point he gets arrested. The neighbor is smiling and laughing at him like, haha, you get what you, because he's a grumpy, racist asshole. So I'm sure like everyone's smiling at him getting his. But then we see him get in prison, and the moment he's like, all those guys are looking, oh, wait, is that, hey, guess who, like, oh my God, look who it is. And the moment he stepped to the one black dude we were seeing at that point in time, I was like, oh God. And he was like, oh, I want you to get up. In wintertime, that's the special spot, like, where the sun comes in, so I want to sit there. And it's like, or what else? He's like, guess. And he looks around, and the moment those other guys, white dudes in particular, I'm like, oh, is this some Aryan Brotherhood bullshit? And the moment he got up, he's like, I ain't about to die over this. And he sits there and they all kneel down like, oh yeah, this some Aryan Brotherhood bullshit. And then all it took was that, ooh, all you had to see that hand jettison in the air. I'm like, wow. Because at first, Sophie's like, oh, don't like capes end up going to like Belle Reve or Arkham? It's like, yeah, but they're too occupied, like over like crowded right now. So he has to stay here. And it's like, oh, cool. He's not just some like villainous, like mercenary or whatever. He's Nazi, a neo-Nazi. You're like, Jesus. I knew they were making him a racist. I didn't know they were going like, no. We're not going part way. We're going all in. He's with the Aryan Brotherhood. He's got his own little squad. It's like, yo, that's going to be interesting. Definitely going to lead to some divides between his dad, between Peacemaker and his dad, potentially. We'll see. Once again, he feels the need to impress his dad. And I love that it's like, oh yeah, Peacemaker made that whole thing about like, wait, do you think she was like a vampire? Like, do you think I have a dick I have a vampire dick or whatever? Like, come on, tell it to me straight. Is my dick a vampire? And it's like, no, you're not a vampire, but you are a fucking dick. And then when he got back home, he lay down, play some music, and start crying. I was like, what? He's like, oh, you're a dick. He's like, the fact of the matter is, yeah, like you could be friends with John, but you push him away like you did everyone else. I was like, you what? And he's just bawling his eyes out. He's like, you killed Rick Flag, and it's like, he was right. Peacemaker, what a joke. I was like, yo, this is kind of what I was wondering, whether he would feel anything. So it's like, yeah, it's like he's overcompensating. It's like, it's like, right, he wants to be big and tough, and he comes off like a dick because, I mean, truth be told, I think it deals with some like emotional and mental abuse he suffered from his dad feeling inadequate, and that's why he keeps up like this machismo act and why he acts the way he does. But he's lonely, and I think in the aftermath of everything that went down, it's like, because and then like Vigilante's watching, he's like, oh crap, he's like, he's like, whoa, are you crying? He's like, no, I'm not crying. He's like, oh, look this way. He's like, no, what are you doing, jerking off to this? And he was like, and I love that they went into the whole Louis C.K. thing, and it was like, he's like, what? Because I'm funny? What? No, because you showed up. You're like, why? Because he's a ginger? I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? And it's like, he's like, no, Louis C.K. showed his penis to people. And it's like, he did? Don't you read the news? He was like, nah, man, it's too depressing. So it's like, look, see, I don't have my dick out. See? And it's like, okay, cool. Like, why don't you use the front door like a normal person? It's like, yeah, but I saw the lights in here. I thought someone might have broken in or something, so. But it comes in, helps clean up the place. They actually have a really neat heart-to-heart, because now Peacemaker is questioning everything that he does. Like, he's always thought, like, right, he was a good guy at the end of the day, all that he did, whether it was, he would willing to do any and all, like, kill anyone for the sake of peace, but now he's questioning, like, maybe I'm not the good guy I thought I was. I've let myself believe that. So, and I think maybe being around his dad kind of triggered a lot of that, too, of, like, right, I everything I do to impress my dad, and no matter what I do, it never is enough. I'll never be enough. And coming to terms with that, I think is going to be a big part of his story in this. But I love that because Peacemaker's thinking, he's like, oh man, I feel like a maniac and stuff like that. And Vigilante's like, no, we kill bad people, I mean, except when there's accidents or slip-ups. But he's also like, right, he's like, because like, Peacemaker's like, maybe I get off on it. He's like, come on, do you think that I get off on it? When I kill someone for, selling drugs, murdering someone, and it was something so simple, and I don't remember what it was. It was something so stupid that you're like, why you kill people for that? I forgot what the third one was off the top of my head, but it was something so mild, you're like, wow, you kill people for that. And he's like, right, that I killed them with my bare hand and I squeeze until their eyes pop out? He's like, do I sound like a maniac? Do I sound like I enjoy that? Did I get off on that? Did I get pleasure from that? And Peacemaker was like, no. I was waiting for him. I was like, what are you? And he was like, yeah, because I do. I'm like, you're such a sick fuck, Vigilante. What the hell? Oh, God, you're so twisted. And he's like, yeah, but you and me, we're the same. That's what we do. I'm like, God, that is so twisted. That is so insane. That is like, yeah. And he's like, do I sound like a maniac? I'm like, yeah, you do. I wonder, is that how Peacemaker sounds to other people? But when you have someone that's like you, kind of being like, oh, what we do is good. Like, it's for the better of the world. Like, we do. Yeah, so well, we get off on it. It's our thing, and we make the world better. We kill bad people, except when we don't kill bad people because of extenuating circumstances. I also love the fact is that he talks about like, oh, he doesn't tell Peacemaker his secret identity because it's like, right, I don't want you to be in danger. People could use you to get to me. He's like, wait, you think people are going to capture me and torture me for your secret identity? And it's like, yeah, like when people look at me, all they're going to see is like the visor, the helmet and the visor. Like that's all they're going to see. They're not going to know my identity. I think that's interesting that they don't know. Well, at least he doesn't. Well, they know each other's. Well, he knows Peacemaker's identity, but Peacemaker doesn't know him as Adrian Chase, which I think that's pretty dope. Also, like the whole like, yeah, can you teach me that thing about making my face muscular with those exercises? Like, yeah, I can. So, and then we get a montage of them like screwing around, shooting targets, blowing stuff up. Just boys being boys. Or more rather, psychopaths just being psychopaths and blowing stuff up and having fun. I guess that's why, like, him and Bloodsport almost had that kinship when they were, like, comparing, like, kill after kill type of situation in that village. Like, I think there was almost supposed to be a little bit replicate of that. So I thought that was just kind of dope and them having fun afterwards. Also, apparently a three-way, potentially with Amber. So it's him, Amber, and Vigilante. I almost was like, is Evan going to be in the bed? It's like, no, it's Vigilante. And I love that he's like, I cannot believe, because they're smoking weed. He's like, I cannot believe they legalized this. He's like, if this was 3 years ago, I would have shot both of you dead over smoking that. I'm like, he's so like against all crime. I'm like, I love it, dude. He's the extreme. Whereas Peacemaker is an extreme in his own right, Vigilante's like the most extreme. I love that. Which even now, like, because of everything, Peacemaker's kind of like faltering on his spectrum of where he stands on being good guy / bad guy, you know? But the device he has, like, he messes with it and it opens up and you're like, what the hell is that? I'm assuming it has something to do with the butterflies, considering he found it in her apartment when he was jacking her CDs and stuff, her vinyls and records and tapes and stuff. So finding out what that's going to be about is definitely going to be interesting. I wonder where's Evan? Did Evan go on the vacation by himself, or are they supposed to be packing? But I love that, once again, I guess those are just going to be gags, the post-credits. Maybe most of them are going to be gags, and then there's going to be one that's, like, important and serious. I don't know. But I love that. It's like, right, then pointing, she's like, yeah, totally is not the handsome guy. And then he's just like, fuck you, Amber. She's like, eat me, Evan. She's like, so can I keep that? Ooh, thank you. And ends up taking the photo. So I was like, yeah, I guess that she was trying to track him down, find out where he's living. And obviously they found each other and banged it out, so. And poor Adebayo is trying to talk to her wife about, like, yeah, maybe you're in a fur baby shoe. She's like, you dragged me here and they're trying to make me leave. It's like, well, it's not like that. It's just like she's worried for her safety. So considering the work they do and how odd hours they're going to be, and she doesn't want her to get dragged in all this. So a lot of crazy, weird thing. The show continues to be bananas, and I love it for it. So I'm very excited to see where episode 3 is going to take us. I'm going to watch it after this, and then obviously record my review then. So I'm excited to see what happens. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.